It's the final week of the NFL season. That's right, week 17. A lot of fantasy football leagues are over, decided in week 16, but we know that a lot of you keep going all the way to the end. Congratulations for persevering all the way through. Week 17 can be, well, it's different. Let's just put it that way. If 2020 was a crazy year, week 17 is the craziest week of the season. Instead of our usual waiver wire video, what we're going to do is talk about some of the top sleepers and streamers for week 17. Let's start with, well, kind of an obvious one if you were paying attention in week 16. A.J. Dillon, the rookie running back out of Green Bay, got his chance finally because Jamal Williams was out, didn't play at all. And during the game on Sunday night, Aaron Jones actually went out for a bit too. So Dillon, for the first time all season, got more than 5 carries a game. And it didn't come in just garbage time either. And wow, did he respond? This is kind of what we were hoping for if he got a chance. This is exactly why the Packers drafted him. 21 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns against, well, not a great Tennessee defense, but still, it's a decent team. And it was impressive anyway you slice it. He outproduced Derrick Henry on the other side. Let's put it that way. So Dillon is an obvious name. We don't know if Williams will be back for week 17. The Packers are in pretty good spot in terms of their playoff seeding, and they might not want to push it. And also, we don't know if Aaron Jones is going to get a full complement of touches. So this is a great place to start Dillon. If you have any fab left whatsoever, you scoop him up right now and you put him in your lineup. The next pick is going to be somebody who is almost a must start at this point because there's so few running backs that get all of their team's carries. And at this point, Malcolm Brown of the Rams has no choice. Cam Akers looked like he might be a league winner down the stretch. And unfortunately, of course, he was out this past week with an ankle injury. Well, guess what? Darrell Henderson next up, also suffering a high ankle sprain against Seattle. It looks like he's going to be out. So with the top 2 running backs out for week 17, it's up to the veteran Malcolm Brown. We haven't heard much from him since week 1, where he had that monster game and fooled everybody into thinking that he was going to have fantasy value. Well, now he does again in the final game. It's going to be all Brown. He does get red zone work anyways, a great chance to score a touchdown. You kind of have to be leery because now we don't know if Jared Goff is going to play. But if anything, that just means that the Rams might give the ball to Brown a lot more than anybody ever anticipated. It's almost a must win for them to get in the playoffs. They have a really good chance, but they still definitely want to beat the Cardinals. So I think we could see a big dose of Malcolm Brown. He could wind up having a monster week. The next running back I want to talk about is, well, a guy you probably heard of, Gus Edwards. Has been kind of in the mix. He's a fringe flex starter, 3rd running back all season long. He's been a waiver wire pickup to prioritize a few times, but this is the week you definitely want to target him. Not only because week 17, it's a must win for the Ravens. They need to win to get into the playoffs. They're going to do whatever it takes. And for them, that's running the ball. But J.K. Dobbins also went out last week with a chest injury. Not sure his status. It's too early to say. Might be limited. He might be in. But this has always been kind of a 1A, 1B situation ever since Mark Ingram was out of the picture. And so Edwards has kind of fringe value anyways. He could get even more work than usual. And this is a great matchup with the Bengals. Like I said, Edwards is in a great spot here to smash. He could be a fantasy RB2 or even higher this week. And then let's also go with a running back in Kansas City, not Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not Le'Veon Bell. No, the guy that had the most value in week 16 and probably in week 17 too is Darrell Williams, the forgotten man there. So Edwards-Helaire is still out, not going to play in week 17. Well, Le'Veon Bell just didn't get the kind of work that we thought he would in week 16. Darrell Williams out-touched him. He had 10 carries to Bell 7. He had more work in the passing game too. Le'Veon Bell, I don't know what the reason is. They just are not treating him like a starting running back. Not sure why they went out and got him. But Darrell Williams led the way last week, and he could do so again in week 17 if they decide, well, they want to keep Bell fresh for the playoffs, or maybe they just think Williams is their number 2 guy now for whatever reason. Darrell Williams is the running back to target there. And even though Kansas City, there's a good chance they're going to rest their starters because, of course, they've already got the number 1 seed and a first-round bye locked up. That means this is when a guy like Williams could thrive, and they're facing a Chargers team that, let's face it, they're just ready for the season to be over. And then final running back I want to talk about in Jacksonville, if James Robinson is a no-go again for the final game of the season, we saw that Darrell Ogunbowale did step up. The Jaguars seem to just have this mentality where it's one running back and that's it. There's no such thing as committee there. So with Robinson out last week, it was all Ogunbowale. He got 14 carries, put up 71 yards, which is pretty good considering the fact that there was just negative game script all game long. They were down and then down big against the Bears. Not a lot of opportunities to run the ball. He did fairly well. Only 2 other carries went to other running backs. So if it's the same situation next week, you see a guy who could get 15 plus touches, might be productive, and that's what you're looking for at this point. You just want a guy that's going to get the ball because there's so much uncertainty in week 17. All right, let's pivot to some wide receivers now. In that same contest against the Colts, the Jaguars here, we have Zach Pascal in Indianapolis. He's been coming on lately. It seems like Phillip Rivers spends every couple of weeks kind of switching which receiver he likes. So early in the season, it was all about the tight ends. And then for a couple of weeks, we thought Michael Pittman was coming on. And then it was all T.Y. Hilton. Well, the last 2 weeks, it's just been Zach Pascal. He's got 3 touchdowns the last 2 games. He's the one making the big plays down the field. And it's a great spot, well, really for all of them. But Hilton at this point is no sleeper. Zach Pascal is barely rostered in fantasy leagues. He's been putting up some big numbers and gets the Jaguars, which is a great spot. And I spoke about Michael Pittman already. Well, Michael Pittman was examined for a concussion this past week. It is possible that they rest their rookie. Now, this is a must-win game for the Colts. They're also fighting to make the playoffs. They shouldn't have a lot of resistance against the Jaguars, although the Jaguars already have their prize claim, which is the number 1 pick in the draft. But still, I think this is a great spot for those receivers. So Pascal is definitely somebody to look out for. He's freely available in fantasy leagues. Another receiver to look for, we haven't heard a lot from Henry Ruggs this season, so why should we expect much in the final game? Well, the Raiders have just been eliminated, so we know there's not a lot to play for. This is a great chance for them to showcase some of the picks that they made, guys that really haven't gotten the ball that much. That means Ruggs. Bryan Edwards finally caught a pass and made an appearance last week. I don't think he'll get a lot of work, but we could see him at least on the field. But I do think they're going to make an effort to throw to Ruggs. I think Derek Carr plays in this game because he's not the kind of guy that just wants to sit on the bench if he doesn't have to. Nelson Aguilar is kind of an obvious start at this point. He's also not a sleeper. He's actually the wide receiver 20 in terms of standard scoring this year. But Ruggs, again, is a guy who could have that boom game. There's a lot of risk, I'm not going to lie. He could do nothing. But still, going against that Denver defense, that secondary is missing still 3 of their top cornerbacks. This is also a team packing it in for 2020. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them get the ball to Ruggs down the field. And then let's go to a team that is just hurting in all senses in offense. And you think that this is an offense you want to avoid, but there's always value on those teams where injuries are taking part. And this is also a team trying to fight to make the playoffs. That's Washington. And so Terry McLaurin didn't play in week 16, and he is now in a walking boot with also, I believe, a high ankle sprain. So if we don't see Terry McLaurin in a game that they absolutely need to win, well, it's going to be Cam Sims. That's right. Cam Sims has been the next up, and he's going to be the wide receiver 1 probably again. He got 9 targets this past week. Didn't do a lot with them, only caught 3 for 63, but he's shown that he can stretch the field, and he's always a big play away from making something happen. No more Dwayne Haskins story about 2. The team has finally cut ties with him. So you might think, well, having Taylor Heineke at quarterback, that's not a great thing. He actually didn't look too bad at the end of that game. So at least they have somebody that's not going to turn the ball over every other series. So I think that Cam Sims is a sneaky sleeper with a lot of potential here. And we know he's going to get targeted. So the floor actually should be fairly high. The floor actually might be higher for this next pick. That's Alex Ericson from Cincinnati. This last week caught 6 passes for 88 yards. Brandon Allen all of a sudden looking like the next coming of Tom Brady. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen this coming week because the matchup is a lot harder against Baltimore as opposed to Houston. But still, this is a game where, well, chances are Cincinnati's going to have to throw the ball a lot to try to catch up. And Brandon Allen has proven at least he can get the ball to his receivers. If Tyler Boyd misses again, because he had a concussion this past week, that definitely bodes well for Ericson. AJ Green, this is probably his last game in Cincinnati. His contract is up. And so who knows how much they're even going to play him. Ericson is one of these late season guys that comes on. He's always kind of there, doesn't do a whole lot. And then in a game that really doesn't mean much, he could definitely pop, which he kind of did already last week. And then let's go to our final pick. I have to sneak a tight end here. I'm going to go with Cameron Brate of Tampa Bay. Number one, the matchup is great going against Atlanta, which is still one of the worst defenses against tight ends. But also, even though Tampa, they're kind of still fighting for seeding, they're going to make the playoffs, but not sure where. I have a feeling that Gronk doesn't get on the field too much. This is a guy that they brought along slowly to start the season. They want to keep him rested for the playoffs where they need him. So I think that we'll see probably a little bit more Brate than usual. He's been at least in the mix lately. The last 6 games, he's averaging about 3 catches, close to 30 yards a game. This is definitely a spot where he could exceed that. So there's just not a lot of help out there for tight end. If you're looking for a tight end streamer, well, Irv Smith's my first pick, but Cameron Brate is actually probably my next pick. He's a guy that could have sneaky value. And that's why he's a sleeper for a time like week 17. All right, guys, hopefully that helped you. Again, keep tuned to the Fantasy Endgame. We appreciate all your support. Hit that subscribe button if this helped you, and good luck in the final week of the season.